Hi, welcome to the Breathe series with the Dear Jack Foundation. This is our Balance and Harmony module. Tonight, our theme is Root to Rise. And so we'll be finding balance in our bodies, also our mind and our soul through the opposite energies. And yoga is really just a practice of finding balance in life. The goal is to think about how we can bring ourselves physically into balance, mentally, and emotionally. Yoga is also more than poses. So we're going to do this through obviously moving our body, but also through how we're breathing and just how we are thinking through. Sometimes it involves meditation. Tonight we won't be meditating, but there will be obviously exploration to kind of tap into your body and just see how you're doing as we move through all of this. Now, there are 4 kinds of energy that flow through our body. It's our energy is known as prana, and so these energies they go down and then they go up, so those are opposites, and they go in and they go out. And these energies have fancy Sanskrit names, so I'm going to tell you them because sometimes it's fun to learn some of the yoga terminology. So when we are grounding down, that is called apana, and if we're moving up, it's called udana. And then if we're going in, it's known as samana, and if we're going out, it's vyana. So you don't have to remember that. I just thought I would kind of bring it up, and you might hear me use those terms through class, but I will also just use them in regular language as well. So tonight we're going to be really focusing on that apana energy, the grounding down, so that we can rise up. And why is this important in life? So physically, when we're doing yoga poses, in order to find a nice stable pose, like if we were to stand on one leg or anything, every pose in yoga requires some kind of balance. We have to think about our feet first. Because if you think about building a house, right, we start with the foundation. So when our feet feel grounded, or if we're sitting, our sit bones feel grounded, then we have that ability to grow taller from that foundation. And also in life, it's the same way. When we feel safe, secure, grounded, rooted in our daily life, and we know that we feel really, happy and we feel joyful in those moments, then we're able to grow as we want to in life. And so it's very important physically as well as mentally to really focus on rooting and just knowing when you don't feel quite that way so that you can bring yourself back into balance. There's also another kind of fancy yoga term called chakras, and we have 7 of them in our body. They go down from the base of our kind of sit bones near our hips, that's our root chakra, all the way up to the crown of our head. And that is where we get a little bit more spiritual as we go higher. But we have to be very rooted and grounded and in that energetic center in order to be able to kind of rise up through the other energies of the body. So that root chakra is what we're going to be focusing on tonight. And like I said, grounding down first is going to allow for growth later, body, mind, and soul. All right, so we're going to be starting on our mats in a seated position. So you can go ahead and get comfortable there. I like to have something like a pillow or a blanket to sit on because it allows you to perch your hips up a little bit higher than your knees. And so if you're not able to sit cross-legged, maybe sit in a chair and put the feet really flat on the floor. And then, or if you're on the couch, feet are flat on the floor, but try not to slump into the couch, like sit up with your back straight or put a pillow behind your back. So lots of options. You definitely don't have to sit cross-legged. And would love for you to take your peace fingers, so it's your pointer and middle finger, make the peace sign. We're going to press the two fingers down into something solid. So if you're on the couch or a chair, you press them into the chair. If you're sitting on the floor, you press them into the floor. This is known as a mudra. It's Bu Mudra, which is our earth energy. Again, this is a Pana if we're talking about those, pranas that flow through the body. And notice when you plug the fingers down, there's a natural grounding, and you start to lift your spine to straighten it. So you already start to feel that energy of rooting to rise. Now from this space, begin to imagine that your sit bones are the base of a mountain. Your arms that come out beside you are the slopes of each side. And then the crown of your head lifts tall to the sky as the peak of the mountain. From this space, feel your breath move from the base all the way up to the crown of your head on the inhale. And as you exhale, allow the breath to completely come out of your body all the way back down to the base of the mountain. Do that a few more times. Inhaling, you feel yourself lifting tall, rising towards the sky. As you exhale, you feel that sense of downward flowing energy to the base of the mountain. Now do that 4 more times. Inhaling, lift and rise. Exhaling, root down. Feel yourself settled and safe. Notice what happens when I stop cueing. Can you keep yourself focused on the energetic lifting and grounding? Grounding and lifting. Then when you're ready, you can start to transition onto your backs. You can go down nice and slowly. We'll just take one hand over the heart and the other hand over the belly. We're going to do another breathing practice here where we allow the breath to rise from the belly up to the ribs and then to the chest. And if you've done some of the very first module videos of breathwork basics, this one is known as Durga Pranayama. And so you can also go back to that, and I teach it more explicitly in the video. So tonight we'll just do a few rounds. We'll start by breathing into the belly, and you'll feel your hand rise. And then let the breath fall. Take 2 more breaths. Inhaling, the hand rises. Exhale, feel nice and rooted. Noticing that the breath is down in the base here, which helps to relieve anxiety. Now we're going to allow the breath to rise up into the ribs. So as you inhale, feel your hand rise with the belly, and then the breath comes up towards the ribs. And as you exhale, let the ribs drop, and then the belly. Do that a few more times, inhaling belly to ribs. And exhaling, ribs to belly. The inhales give you a little bit of energy and vitality. The exhales allow you to feel grounded on your mat. And now we'll allow the breath to rise, belly, ribs to chest. So your next inhale, feel the belly lift with your hand, rise to the ribs, and then into the chest. And then exhale, chest, ribs to belly. You start to feel almost a fluid-like quality rising like a wave up into your chest. And on the exhale, that wave dissipates kind of back to the shoreline where it meets the earth. Again, the fluid-like quality rises. And as you exhale, you feel that grounding as the water moves towards the shore. Take 2 more rounds of breath here. Just noticing how it feels, and also if there's any place that the breath gets stuck, because sometimes it's really hard to actually access all 3 parts of the torso. Especially if there's been any sort of treatment in a certain area up here, or surgery. And if you do have any difficulty getting the breath into one of those areas, then that's just something to practice. Now that we're starting to feel a little more grounded in our bodies from our breath, because the breath is the bridge between the physical body and the mind. When we're focused on the breath, our thoughts slow down, and then we feel less stress usually. We'll start to set an intention. You can place both hands over your heart if that feels okay. Breathe in, think of an intention that you'd like to call into your practice, or just how you'd like to leave tonight. Now from this space, we'll start to move slowly. Now start to bend your knees and place your feet mat width distance apart. So you'll kind of toe heel your feet to the side. You can bring your arms out a little wider for some stability. Take a breath in with your knees pointed towards the ceiling. And as you breathe out, just allow your legs to drop to one side. Maybe they go all the way, maybe just a little bit. As you inhale, the knees come up to center. And as you exhale, they drop to the other side. Now this time, knees come to center. And as they drop over to the right, roll your gaze to the left. Inhale, knees to center. Exhale to the left, roll your gaze to the right. One more time, inhale, center. Exhale to the right. This time, pause for just a moment and see if you can feel this twist. It might, if you have any sort of something uncomfortable on this side, that's okay. You can just keep the knees up. You can stay here. You can maybe bring one of your arms, that left arm, up to the sky, stretching through the side body. And then we'll slowly start to bring that arm back down. Inhale the knees up. Exhale to the left. Roll gaze to the right and pause. Stretch that right arm up if it feels okay. Really breathe up to the fingertips. Breathe back down to the hips. Nice work. Now we'll bring the knees back up. And we're going to take our legs down so they're straight. From here, bend just the right knee so it comes to the sky. And see how it feels to open that knee like a book so it opens up to the side. Now your foot is going to touch the side of your left leg. We'll see if your foot is touching the knee or if it's below the knee or if it comes above the knee. Above the knee is a little bit challenging. We don't really want the foot touching the knee. So if it is, maybe you bring it down just a little bit. Just let that settle, opening up the hip. The arms can start to float up overhead, reaching towards the back wall. Point your toes to the ceiling, and almost like you're stomping your heel towards the wall in front of you. You're rooting down so you feel your foot pressing forward, and then inhaling up to your fingertips. Exhale, bring the breath back down to your foot. One more time, inhaling to reach. On your exhale, feel the breath move down your spine, down your legs towards your foot. Nice work. Now we'll move to the other side. So you can just let that right arm, or the arms come down, right leg meets the left. And then we'll draw the left knee to the sky. Gently open the knee to the left side. And notice that your foot probably starts to touch the knee and then we go above or below it, whatever is most comfortable. When you're pressing your foot into the side of your leg, you feel that midline start to draw up through your torso, and then maybe the arms rise up above you, reaching to the fingertips. Bring that right foot so that the toes are facing up and the heel is sort of pressing forward. You feel that grounding in the foot as you lift up through the fingers. Now you're going to see this shape a few times tonight, but we're going to gradually make our way up to standing with it. So we're rooting down right now so that we can eventually rise tall. And when we get to that point, you will have felt it a few times. One more breath in, reach tall. Exhale, breath back down the spine and legs to your foot. All right, we'll bring the arms down. And then we'll slowly start to roll up to a seated position. So I like to just bring the knees up, roll to one side, use the weight of my palm to come up to seated. And we're going to find that same shape now as we're sitting down. So we'll go ahead and take that right knee and keep it bent in, and the left leg is going to go forward, which I just realized I should probably mirror you. So I'm going to switch it up. Yes. Right leg or right knee is bent, left leg's forward. And you may be able to keep this tucked in a little bit further here, but if you'd rather, you can kind of scoot the foot down. We're going to start by turning towards the left leg, straight leg. Root down into the sit bones, and then inhale, lift the arms tall. Feel that sense of grounding, and then inhaling to lift. We'll do that one more time. Inhale to lift. Exhale, bring the breath down as you reach forward, and really try to lengthen your spine rather than kind of drop here. So you're reaching forward, and then the hands come down. We're coming into a hamstring stretch, and so we'll stay here for a few breaths. You can stay nice and still or sometimes gentle movements can help get a little deeper into the pose. So I like to pulse, inhaling to lift up, exhaling to ground down. Inhaling, pulse, exhaling, feeling my roots. Last breath here. We'll start to walk the fingertips back. Feel the sit bones press down. And then inhale, lift the arms back tall. We're going to start to rotate over to the right and then place the left hand on the knee, right fingertips behind you. So it's a little bit of a twist. Again, root down into the sit bones. And as you take a nice breath in, lift through the crown of the head so your spine is nice and tall. As you exhale, you can twist a little here, looking over that right shoulder. The breath gets a little sticky when we twist. So again, we're lifting to create some length, opening up. Exhaling, you get a little more of a twist. One more breath. Now we're going to keep that kind of twisted alignment and just bring the left arm down to the leg. And the reason why is because then we sweep the horizon, gazing under the arm, coming into this side body stretch. And that way, the lower ribs start to rotate up towards the sky. And again, we're focusing on the sit bones. Feel them rooting down. And then inhale, lift up through the side body all the way to your fingertips as your arm rainbows over. Exhale, bring the breath back to the sit bones. Two more, inhaling. Exhale, feel your roots. One more time. We'll slowly start to root down and lift back up. You'll engage your core a little bit. And then take that right hand back behind your hip. Now, this gets a little fancy. We're going to push into that hand, use the weight, lift it up, reaching up through the left arm. And so you're opening up kind of the whole body right now, the whole front side of the body. The hip flexors, all the way up through the torso, the heart is open. Again, feel your foot and your knee grounding down. And then inhale, reach up through the fingers. Exhale, feel the breath move down to your feet. We'll do that one more time. Stay strong, inhaling. And then as you exhale, we'll bring the sit bones back down to the earth. All right, nice work. Well, before we switch to the other side, let's bring both feet together to touch, coming into our butterfly pose. And the closer your heels are inward, the more tight it might feel. So you can bring them out a little bit. Again, subtle movements. I think the reason we call this butterfly is because it actually helps to flutter your legs here. And the inclination is to want to kind of hunch over. So the sit bones as our roots, as they press down, allows us to lift tall up through the spine and the crown of the head. Notice how that feels compared to if you were hunching. And then from that straight spine, we can start to forward fold just a little bit. Maybe come and hinge at the hips rather than letting the shoulders drop. Hinge at the hips even if you don't go as deep. I like to kind of wiggle my way down, feeling into the hips and all these nooks and crannies. When you get settled, you can allow the chin to drop a little. And we'll take a few breaths here. 2 more breaths. Root down into the sit bones. Slowly lift back up. And we'll switch sides. And so now we're gonna straighten that other leg, right leg straight, left knee bent. And again, square off towards that right leg. Feel the sit bones rooting down, toes to the sky. And on your next in-breath, reach the arms all the way up. Take another breath here to ground and to lift up to the fingertips. Now the next time you exhale, hinge at the hips again, nice straight back, reaching forward, reaching, and then let the hands come down. Breathe into the hamstring here. Right, 2 more breaths. Again, the pulsing feels kind of nice sometimes. Inhaling to lift, exhaling to ground. We'll start to walk the fingers back. Root down into the sit bones, and then you notice the spine growing tall again. Arms come up above the head. And then we'll turn over to the left. So your right hand is on the knee, left fingertips behind you. Again, root to the sit bones. You're gonna hear me say that word so many times tonight. Inhale, lift up, straightening the spine. On your next exhale, you may twist a little more, gazing over that left shoulder. Two more breaths. Last one. Now staying in this alignment, we'll just bring that right arm down. It can go to the mat, it can go kind of right on the leg, or if you have a block, you can rest it. And then sweep the horizon and just look underneath your arm. As you do, you start to look up and your ribs roll towards the sky. So it's less about trying to reach for the foot. As you notice, I kind of collapsed there. And I'm rolling open, because that's when you get this nice side body stretch. And then we can breathe 3 breaths, inhaling from the sit bones all the way up the side body as your arm bends and the fingertips then drip down. Bringing the breath down to the sit bones, then inhaling it all the way back up. Last breath. Next, inhale, root into the sit bones, and then start to lift the arms up. Bring that left hand down behind you. And then again, you're kind of slicing the horizon. That right foot roots down. Your knee is also a nice base for you. Your hand, and then you're lifting through the right fingertips. One more breath here, root down, and then inhale all the way to your fingers. All right, good job. Exhale, slowly bring those sit bones back down. Okay, so as you can see, that was our seated tree pose. We'll start to make our way up. Next stop is tabletop. So we'll come to hands and knees. Our base is gonna be nice and stable with our hands, our wrists make a 90-degree angle, and then we have the hips at a 90-degree angle as well. And you can play around with your feet. Sometimes people like to bring the tops of the feet down. Sometimes the toes are tucked. So you feel what makes you sense a nice grounded position here. I think I usually tuck my toes. I have to kind of remind myself to try the feet down sometimes, and then I feel a little less stable, but you might feel the opposite. So from here, once you feel nice and rooted down, we'll move into a few cat-cows. So we'll inhale, drop the belly, and start to bring your gaze forward. Exhale, press into your hands and draw your gaze down, rounding your spine. Again, belly drops, tailbone floats to the sky as your gaze moves forward. Exhale, root down, really press into the mat so you get good rounding in the spine. We'll do one more like this. Inhaling, you get that heart opening. Exhaling, you get that rounding. You can continue a few more regular cat-cows, or since we're nice and rooted here, you could try more of a flowing version. So as you inhale, you kind of bring the tailbone down to your heels. And as you exhale, you roll and round as you come forward. So this can feel and look however you want it to. Inhaling and exhaling. When you feel rooted, notice that you can get a little bit more free with your movements. Sometimes people like to even create some hip circles here, neck circles. This is where you feel into your body and you start to notice, ooh, I feel a little tense there. I'm going to stretch it out. Maybe you like to go to one side, stretching into the outer hip, coming up through center and going to the other side. All the while, your hands are rooted down in front of you and your feet behind you. Knees as well. So you have a nice strong base. And from there, you can do whatever feels good in your body. Now from here, we'll start to come back to our normal tabletop position. Walk the fingertips forward. So the arms are straight. I like to keep my fingers tented, like you're maybe like protecting a cupcake underneath them or something. And then as you inhale, puff up your back. And then exhale, melt down. And maybe you just go a little way, maybe your forehead comes to the mat, or you can put a pillow or block beneath your forehead. You could stay here in stillness, or again, like that pulsing sensation feels nice. Inhaling, rounding the back. Exhaling, melting the heart down. You can do a few more breaths here in stillness or pulsing. Notice that there's almost a rinsing effect in your shoulders, a real nice opening. This is called puppy pose, or in Sanskrit, it's called anahatasana. And so we're opening our anahata chakra. So I talked about our root chakra, our heart chakra is the anahata. So we're melting our heart down to the mat. Opening the heart. They say an open heart is an open mind. Good. Now we'll start to drop our arms down, forearms to the mat, wiggle down onto your belly. And now the fronts of the feet will definitely come down if they're not already. Coming into Sphinx pose, arms are parallel, hands are pressing down. Start to drag your fingers back towards you. So you're gripping the mat a little. And as you do, notice that your heart can shine forward. So there's those opposite energies again, pulling back as you move forward. You can stay in stillness, or I like to move my chin side to side, kind of rocking here, stretching each side of my neck. Sometimes it feels good to also just gaze down and stretch the back of your neck. And then pull back forward, shining your heart again. One more breath here. And then we'll just start to push our way back up to hands and knees. We're gonna make our way up to standing now. So we are starting to rise officially. When you come to standing, the first thing that we're gonna do is we're just gonna shake it out. So a lot of times when we feel stressed, think about animals, they always shake it out when they're stressed. So it might be just little movements at first, maybe just moving the arms, and then you start to move your legs. Maybe they start to get bigger. Maybe you want to jump around. Maybe you start to let the arms go. You start to make some dance moves, whatever you want to do, whatever brings a smile to your face. Try to make yourself smile. Like, life is way too serious, right? So shake it out, shake it out. Maybe a minute longer than you really want to. You're like, when's she gonna tell me to stop already? And then, whoo, now start to settle. Feet become a little more than hip width distance apart. Start to rock side to side, forward and back, finding your center. Now really focus on your feet. Feel that big toe rooting into your mat, followed by every one of your toes all the way to your pinky. Maybe you even spread your toes if you can, feeling all four corners of your feet now, toes rooted, heels rooted. As your feet press down, we'll start to stack the body joint by joint on top. So you'll feel your ankles right on top of the feet. Now take a breath in from your feet up to your knees. And as you exhale, feel your knees stacking directly above your ankles. The next breath in moves from your feet up your legs to the hips. And as you exhale, feel your hips stacking right above your knees. You may be making micro adjustments here, just little movements. Inhaling, feet all the way up the legs, moving all the way up towards the shoulders now. Shrug the shoulders up, let them fall down your back. Just then allow the shoulders to stack over the hips. Your next breath in moves from the feet all the way up the body to the crown of the head. Just take that chin, tuck it back slightly so that the head is then directly above the shoulders. Palms are shining forward. Once again, just like in our Bhu Mudra, our arms are coming out just like mountain slopes. And this is known as Tadasana, or mountain pose. We're going to do I said we weren't going to meditate, but this is a brief meditation now. So let's tap into this mountain pose, feeling the stability beneath our feet, the sense of rooted connectedness to the earth. You may even imagine you have roots kind of growing down. Feeling that lift up nice and tall to the peak of the mountain. Knowing that mountains are unwavering in their strength and stability, despite whatever storm comes their way. Knowing that you too have that ability to be strong when you're mindful and you're present and grounded in your body. Now, once again, draw attention back to your. Feel the breath down at your feet And as you inhale, feel the breath rise up to the crown of your head. And as you exhale, send that breath right back down to your feet. Again, inhaling from your feet up to the crown. Say to yourself, I am. And then as you exhale, feel the breath move down to your feet and say, grounded, safe, secure. Again, the breath rises up and you say, I am, as you lift tall, shining that heart forward, keeping the core tucked in. Exhale, sending the breath back down to your feet. Do that a few more times. Inhaling, saying, I am. Exhaling, saying, grounded, or whatever else your intention might be, because when you are grounded, you can start to feel into that intention you set for yourself. Meditating on the breath, how you're standing, knowing that you would actually be doing yoga if you decided to just bring yourself into an intentional mountain pose, working on your posture, lengthening through the torso, allowing your organs to function properly inside, bringing yourself into a state of presence. That's all it takes. You can do that anytime, anywhere. Now, I'm going to test your balance a little here by having you shake it out one more time and then restack yourself. And I'm not going to cue it right away. So you don't have to shake as aggressively as before, but just take a moment to come out of the pose completely, however feels good to you. And then bring yourself back into your mountain pose, finding the feet first. And then you're stacking your joints, rising tall. When you find yourself in that stable mountain pose, you notice it doesn't take that long. Bring yourself into that meditation of I am grounded, or whatever else your intention is. Nice work. We'll blink open the eyes now. We'll start to move into a few more poses, and we're gonna open up our hips a bit more into our warrior two pose. So I like to come down to my knees first, and then I'm going to bring my left foot forward, and then you can decide here, from this kneeling position, you can simply pivot this other foot back like a kickstand, and it opens the hip, so you're still externally rotating your hip, which is our goal. And you can do a kneeling warrior two. If you'd like to come into the full standing warrior two, from the kneeling lunge, bring that back knee up and pivot your back foot so it's parallel to the back of your mat and firmly planted. When your feet feel really nice and rooted, you can start to rise tall. Hands to hips first. Focus on the feet, make sure you feel good, pressing into the back foot like a brake and allowing the front knee to come over the ankle. From here, arms rise up. You start to find some softness in them, stability in the legs, softness in the upper body. Now, last week, we brought in, I was talking about that samana energy when we bring the hands together and then we let them come back out. So those two energies of inhaling, hands come together. Exhale, open the arms back out, reaching through the fingertips. And then you may notice that your feet do the same thing. As you inhale your hands together, it's almost like you're dragging your feet towards one another and the inner thighs engage. And then exhale, arms out. So every pose requires a lot of intention, a lot of focus. Good. We'll pause here with the arms out. And we're going to practice the other energy. So when I was saying Udana, the arms come up. And then Apana, the arms come back down. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhaling the arms up. Exhaling, feeling the energy float down. Nice work. 1 more time. Your legs may start to burn a little. We're almost done. Good job. Exhale, arms down. Take 1 moment to gaze over the fingertips, standing strong in your warrior pose. All these poses that make us feel empowered and strong, notice how much we have to root down first so that we can rise into our sense of empowerment. Nice work. 1 more breath. You got this. And then we'll come, exhale, cartwheel your hands down. We'll take a child's pose in between, or you can just sit back on your heels. Turn your gaze down, reconnect with your breath. Child's pose, arms come out long, connecting forehead to earth, feeling that sense of grounding. And so you notice the reason yoga can bring us into balance is because we are constantly doing the opposites. We have opposite energy running through our body in poses. We're also doing an active pose, and then we take it down a notch and we recover. We always tap back into the breath. Brings us back into consciousness. We start to forget if something was hard or challenging. 3 more breaths here. And we'll slowly start to come back up. And we're going to do warrior 2 now from the other side. And I'm going to turn so you don't have to turn on your mat, but I do, otherwise my back will be towards you. So now right foot comes forward. You can start in that lunge. Swing the foot around for a kickstand and rise up into your kneeling warrior 2. Or knee starts to hover, foot plants down, root into both feet and rise up. And so choose what, maybe it doesn't matter if it's physically what you want to do, but energetically sometimes if you're tired, you might feel like you can do this standing one, but maybe you don't want to energetically. So doesn't always, our choices in yoga aren't always to the extent of what we know we're capable of. It's how we feel in the body. We remove that. It's called ego, but really our ego is just what controls the mind. And sometimes the mind is bossy. So really just feel into your heart and what you want. Again, feeling the feet pressing down. We go through our energies again on this side. Inhaling, feel that samana energy drawing into your heart. And then as you exhale, root down, let the arms expand wide for Vyana. Do that 2 more times. Inhaling, hands and feet coming together, right? Because we're keeping the legs and feet active. And then back. Last one. It's okay if you weren't able to feel the feet part or that engagement on both sides, but just practice. Now we'll practice the up and down energy. So inhaling, the arms float up above the head and touch the palms. Exhale like you're pushing the palms down. Good. 2 more times. Inhaling, we have Udana energy. Exhaling, feel that Apana. Last one. Good, really focusing on the roots as you exhale. Gaze comes over the fingers, knowing we're gonna hold it. Feel the feet pressing down. Come a little deeper into the pose. Last 2 breaths, you got this. And then we'll just cartwheel the hands down. You can come back to your knees. You could take a child's pose, or you could stand up in our Tadasana again. So you have 3 choices of where you want to be. I will say that we are staying on our feet for another pose, so if it makes more sense to you to stay up, go for it. But this is your practice. Whatever is going to help you tap into your breath the most. Feeling in breath and out. Take 3 more breaths here. Remind yourself of your intention. Now, before we get to our peak pose, which you know is tree pose, just because we've done it a few times, making our way up to standing, we are going to practice our one-legged balance. So I recommend finding a wall space. I'm going to use this one right here. And go so that you're touching the wall with your hands. You're going to notice feet are going to be hip width distance apart. And then you're going to walk the feet back a little bit so that your arms kind of are more straight and you can bring your back so it's flat, which I'm kind of like eating my plant right now, but my peace lily. Push your hands into the wall forward. And then use that energy to then push back into your sit bones. Notice how they lengthen out. Now, keep that right foot rooted into the earth. Feel all 4 corners of your foot. And then this left leg might start to lift up a little. Maybe you just lift it a little bit. Notice how that feels in your right foot once you do. And then see how it feels to bring it back behind you. Maybe it comes a little way. Maybe it starts to lift up higher. Maybe a little higher. Push forward and then kick back. Now notice I'm trying to keep my sacrum nice and flat here rather than have this leg go higher and lift open. That's not the point. The hips stay closed down towards the earth. You're kicking back into the heel as you push forward. You may feel that foot is nice and engaged, rooted into the earth. The back of your hamstring is firing. Your glutes are firing. Okay, now slowly start to bring your foot down. Walk your hands up the wall. And your knee comes in front of you. Now, if you can, see how it feels to bring one hand to your hip, maybe the other, so you're standing in stork pose, or I kind of like to call this pose Karate Kid. So here we're feeling that foot press down as the left knee lifts, and you may have some wobbles. This is totally normal. Just feel that your foot can come down. We're working on our stabilization muscles in the ankle. Now it's very normal after cancer treatment for muscles to atrophy or to feel a sense of imbalance or like you don't maybe feel as stable as before. So this is your practice. A little bit, you can also touch the wall, whatever you need. All right, good job. We'll go ahead and bring that foot down. We'll do the other side and then we'll go into our tree pose. So same thing. Start out with the hands pressing against the wall. Notice the difference between your legs, by the way, before we start. You could even just stand there for a moment. That right leg is really, it's been worked. Now, start to walk those feet back. Arms start to press forward. Hands press into the wall. Bring the head down between the arms. Now, you could always just stay here. This is great. And root that left foot down and let that right foot kind of hover, right? Just testing your balance little by little. Use that energy pushing forward to use the opposite energy to kick back. Heel is like you're kicking towards the back wall, keeping those hips even. Breathing, of course, that's what helps us keep our balance. Nice work. Take one more breath here. This is like a warrior 3 pose using the wall. One day maybe you'll take the arms off the wall and test balance there. And then we'll start to walk the hands up. It gets a little awkward there. Maybe you start to bring a hand to hip and the knee starts to hover. Take careful notice if one side felt a little more wobbly than the other. It's very common. This side is my more stable side, but I still feel those subtle wobbles, stabilization muscles. Good job. You can use the wall, of course. One more breath here. And then exhale, the foot comes down. All right, nice work. So moving to the other side, to the tree pose now. So we are going to, again, focus on the feet first. The reason we were opening up the hips earlier is because we do have to do that in this pose. So we're kind of combining a few things, focusing on one leg, opening of the hips, rooting down to rise tall. I even have my tree pants on, got my roots, just focus on those roots. All right. Start with the right foot really planted into the earth. Again, maybe spread the toes, feel all 4 corners of the foot nice and secure. Start to shift the weight into that right leg a little bit. And then you can start to take the toes up, the heels up, so your toes are on the ground. It's the opposite. And you could even just stay here. The knee is pointing forward. Now that external rotation we did in Warrior 2, we can start to open the knee to the side. So the hip starts to open. Knee opens like a book. Now, you can stay here with a little kickstand or slowly start to slide your foot up your calf. Now, as I said earlier, the foot either goes above or below the knee. Now, a lot of times people are like, I gotta get my foot all the way up here, and then it becomes this unstable tree because this takes a lot of flexibility. So we're gonna keep maybe the foot right below the knee at first. Make sure you feel nice and stable there. And with balance, you take 2 opposing forces and push them together. Push your foot into your calf, calf into the foot, and notice how you get this nice line up through your center. You can start to then take your hands up towards the sky, lengthening the arms. And you can maybe open them wide, whatever you want your tree to look like. The other key is find your gaze fixed on one point. That's called a drishti. It's when you can then just look at one thing and breathe. Nice work. We're going to take 3 more breaths. Notice those stabilization muscles working hard right now. Growing your tree as tall as you want. Maybe you take some intentional wobbles even to see how that feels. Coming back to stillness. Good job. Now as you exhale, just let your fingers, let the leaves flutter down. Imagine you're just letting go of something that maybe is stressful in your life, letting it fall down like a leaf. Good job. Roll out that ankle for a second. We'll go to the other side. So coming into that Tadasana first, finding our stable mountain pose. Focusing on the left foot now, plugging down all 4 corners of the foot. Roots grow deep into the earth. Another fact that trees have this, their roots go as deep down into the earth as they are tall. That's amazing to me. So feel that foot really rooting down. Start to bend the right knee. Find that kickstand, toes are down, heel is up. Open the knee to the side. Notice the hips want to go with it, so you're just kind of letting it go as far as it can. Pause here, stay here if you'd like. Maybe start to test your balance, slide the foot up the calf. Press your foot into your calf, calf into your foot. Roots are strong, you start to grow from there, nice and tall. Arms can come up overhead. Inhaling through the fingertips. Exhale the breath down to the roots. 3 more breaths. Wobbles are always welcome. Again, it's a practice. I've been doing this for a while. So know that you got this. The more you practice your balance like anything else, the more you will feel balanced. It's amazing how that works, right? All right, again, as you exhale, flutter the leaves down. Imagine you're letting go of something that you're worried about in life. And then we'll start to bring it down to the mat once again. So we'll come down to our seated position, stretch the legs out in front, and shake out those legs. We're going to take a forward fold because we were doing so much standing and growing tall just a moment ago. So now we're going to take a moment to let the energy come down and ground once again. Feel your sit bones rooted. In the inhale, lift up through the fingers once again, so your spine is nice and straight. And just like earlier, when we come into a forward fold, we start to exhale, lengthen the spine, reach forward. You get to that point where you're like, I think that's about as far as I can go. Hands come down. Spine stays straight rather than going like that. We're not trying to get low. We're trying to stretch the hamstrings with a straight spine. And then you can gently tuck the chin a little. You can keep the toes facing the ceiling. Nice and active in the feet. We're always trying to think of all the details in the poses, staying nice and rooted. Rooted in our focus, staying present, thinking about all the little muscles and tendons and everything that's going on in the body. 3 more breaths here. Good job. All right, we'll take the fingertips, walk them back, and we're going to make our way down onto our backs. Almost done. So feet are going to be on the floor, knees stacked towards the sky. And start to walk your heels back towards your glutes a bit. Now, if you have something like, I have this pillow. If you have a pillow, you can, or a block. My blocks are somewhere else, so I'm going to put the pillow between my legs. It's nice to have something between your legs when we do bridge pose because it keeps your legs firing on the inner thighs firing on your legs. And we're also going to take our hands, wrap them around the outside of the mat. So that's going to be another thing that helps us stay grounded. Feel your feet pressing down. And the next time you inhale, you're going to lift the hips up, squeeze the block or the pillow or whatever is between the legs so that everything's active. And notice that your hands, you can start to grip the mat. It's almost like you're going to push the mat forward a little bit. Act as though you're pushing your fingers forward, and then your heels almost start to drag backwards. Everything's active. You may start to think, oh, my butt is firing, my hamstrings, everything is active. So you're, again, gripping the mat, and you're pushing forward with it. Drag your heels back. Feel the co-contraction, the opposite forces here. Maybe the hips come a little higher. We'll take 2 more breaths. You got this. And then we exhale, slowly lower down. Nice work. Now, our last pose of the evening is legs up the wall. And I'll show you how we get into that. I like to go over to the wall and kind of snuggle up to it. So my side is against the wall here. And then as I lay down, I can swing my legs up as I turn. You can also do this pose by taking your legs and putting them on like an ottoman, bending them here, or a chair. So you choose what works for you. The reason we're doing this pose is because it's the opposite of what we've been doing. Our feet have been so planted on the earth tonight that we're gonna let them rise to the sky and reverse the energy flow. This pose is actually really good for helping with reducing anxiety. It can also reduce nausea and help with digestive stress. Has a lot of powerful benefits. So it also helps just get the blood flow kind of coming back up towards the heart. Can reduce inflammation. So often it pulls down in our feet and our ankles. Nice steady breaths here. It's normal if you feel some tingling sensations, because that's just all that blood flow reversing. Just allow your breath to slow, nice, steady, rhythmic breath. Can you slow down your mind? All too often when we start to hold a pose a little longer, the mind starts to chatter. And it's a practice to tell that mind, I don't have time for this right now. You get to run the show most of the day. This is my time. And that's what brings you back into balance, because you're not letting that mind, the monkey mind, boss you around. I invite you to stay here or rest in a final Shavasana for a few moments. You come down into your Shavasana pose. You're just simply going to come out the same way. It's a little awkward, but like swing the legs around. Legs come long, arms come wide. Take up some space here. Feel like you're landing and rooting down once again. Settling into this safe space. begin to deepen your breath. Invite gentle movements into your fingers and toes and wrists and ankles. When you feel ready, you'll reach the arms overhead, taking a stretch. And then slowly start to roll onto one side and make your way up to a seated position. We always end practice with a gesture of two hands coming together, joining our two sides and energies of the body, known as Anjali Mudra. And we say Namaste. And that simply means the light and love in me honors the very same light and love in each of you. Thank you for joining me tonight. Namaste.